thanks, Sid. That was the most human, touching introduction anyone has ever done for me. It typically goes through those, those bio reads that are so boring uh, and can be really intimidating because I don't do all that. Someone like you made it look really good and wrote all of that, right? So it's really not true. But frankly, thank you, Preeti, uh, Siddharth, the entire faculty, all the new students. Just thank you for having me. I'm actually quite overwhelmed just to be here because I think this has always been a school for me which was aspirational. I have never been here, but I've heard so many good things about the work that you do, and it's humbling for me to just be here and speak to you. And from my perspective, everything Sid said, he's a great marketer. Don't forget that, right? So you're not going to believe him. But honestly speaking, I think I'm very young. I'm 37 years old. Just turned 38 this year, actually a month ago. I look a little older. I know I'm losing hair, but yeah, I'm just 1% done in my journey. So what I thought I'll do is today, rather than telling you how I, when people ask me how qualified are you, say I'm a PhD. I passed with high difficulty, right? It's one of those things. But I'm not going to take you, I'm not going to take you through a journey of what happened here and what happened there. I know I have about 20 minutes. I'll try and be quick. But I'll try and tell you about key learnings that I've had and key stories that have shaped me to who I am today. Some of them you may relate to, some of them you may not, right? But if you can take one of them, and if you think it was something that makes sense to you individually or professionally, I think that would be a job well done for me in 20 minutes, right? That's the way I'll frame it. So let me start. Firstly, let me just say how, what a privilege just to be in this room with the style of room that this is. It just communicates such a vibe and culture around the marriage of art and science, which is the left and the right brain that Preeti was talking about. And I think, what a privilege. I mean, I did engineering where I mugged my way through it, and I today remember the difference between a cathode and a diode as being between 2 and 3 something. I don't even know what that is. But the fact that you can go out of your comfort zone and someone's encouraging you to do that is actually what we need in the workplace, right? And this is what we always talk about in the workplace, about getting that skill. I call it digital DNA in my head because there's just no better way of framing it for me, but it's a privilege. So make the most of the next 2 years. I think, you guys are lucky. I just wish I had what you had at this point. Because I remember when I passed out of school in 95, I just heard of MICA, and I wasn't even good enough to get in, right? To be very honest, had I applied, I would have got rejected. So just treat that as a privilege. It's a big one, and trust me, when you are on where I am, you want to get back to school. I want to go back and do everything that you're doing. So let me start with some of my key learnings. And the first one may sound a little cliched, but I'll try and build a story around it, which is what I call integrity without compromise. And the difference is the without compromise piece that I've added on. I'll tell you 3 or 4 stories. So my first story was in class 10. I actually finished my 10th, 11th, 12th from Gujarat, from Surat. So I know a little bit of Gujarati. I'm not going to try it in this room, but I know a little bit, right? But I can just say mane par Gujarati avde che, right? That's what I could go there and say. So I remember in my 10th pre-boards, and I used to be a good student. I stood first in school all throughout. In my 10th pre-boards, I completely blacked out. I was doing the ICSE stream. So you had Maths 1, Maths 2. I don't know how many of you guys went through the same thing. But Maths 1 paper, I don't know, I reached there, completely blacked out. A friend of mine had the opportunity to pass me his paper, and I was very keen to peek and cheat, but somehow I just froze. And I got a 0 on 100. Maths 2, I got 99.5, and that made it 49 point whatever. So I was allowed to sit for the ICSE pre-board exams, and I managed to do fairly well there. But the learning for me there was just not giving up on that integrity. Recently I had my wife, we're moving from Bangalore to Gurgaon, which is fairly painful in terms of the weather. Yeah. And she told me, take in one of the flights that I was going by, take some bangles for her to her mom's house in Delhi. Now, for me, carrying gold jewelry, firstly, it's like the thing that I don't even understand. But this was kind of funny. I left the bag off in my laptop bag right on the top, same bag. I put the jewelry on the top, took out the laptop in the car, left it in the Uber, right? I travel by Uber everywhere. And the Uber driver, after I landed in Delhi, called me and gave me back that jewelry, which was amazing, right? And his need for, or what he could have done with it, would have been so much greater. The third incident that I'll tell you was when I was a consultant in Sun Microsystems. I spent 2 years of my life designing an internet backbone for a government. This was when the days of the internet were just starting, and we were designing systems for you to get the internet at home. And after 2 years of effort, when the deal finally came to bid for the deal, let me just say that we were put in a situation where uh, we were going to break the FCPA guidelines or the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act guidelines had we succumbed to what we were being asked to do. And so we didn't do it. Okay, but that was, so 2 years of effort. I went into depression for almost 60 days after that, because literally just imagine something that you worked for in 2 years and you lose. So I've lost more than I've gained. Trust me, I've failed more than I've succeeded. And I think the biggest learning for me is if you can fail and just keep your head up, held up high, that you've learned something along the way and not repeat it, right? And do the right thing. The fourth story that I'll tell you around this whole piece is actually an Intuit. Intuit was my first role to lead a business in the country. They gave me a fancy title called managing director, but I was amongst the first few employees. So the chaprasi come the whatever was me. But it was kind of funny. So, this was an American company, an awesome American company that has built Quicken, QuickBooks, TurboTax. These are iconic brands in the US. And we were being asked to build local products for the local market in India. And what happened there was two products bombed, which is okay. One was a CSR project that we actually did with farmers in Gujarat, so very familiar with this region. And two were commercially successful in its own way, which is an okay hit rate for a new startup. And this country was treated as a startup at that time for us. Interestingly, one of the two projects that bombed was something called Intuit Go Connect. And Go Connect was a small business app that we were going to put on a Nokia phone, partnering with Nokia, and send it to all the small businesses or sell it to all the small businesses. Now, in my gut, I knew the wrong thing for us to do, right? But there was this, when you're in a room with three people senior to you, you can say, hey, I don't think that's the right thing. But then there's such a feel of force of positions and titles who have better wisdom according to you. And so you succumb, right? That thing that I succumbed. So, by the way, we did the partnership with Nokia. We invested $40 million on that project. It was a complete failure. We didn't sell more than 100 units, I think, in India. And I remember doing a debrief with one of our global leaders in the room, and he said, I told him, I think it's frustrating for me because I knew this is going to fail, but I just couldn't voice my opinion when there were so many senior people in the room. And he said, Umang, that is an integrity issue. And that was a big hit for me because what he meant by it's an integrity issue is you knew something that the outsiders didn't, or the foreigners didn't. You should have been respectful but forceful with your opinion and at least let it be heard. So not speaking up is an integrity issue, right? And that's why I say integrity without compromise. I think that's been the biggest learning for me. And as I told you, success and failures. And it's just when you can put it into perspective. So in my room, in my team, the culture is just don't abuse me. But speak up and tell me you think I'm stupid, right? And I encourage you to do that. Even if in this room something you don't relate to, or it's just against your moral principles, just put your hand up and say, hey, you know what, Umang, I don't agree. But speak up and be heard. It is the most important freedom of expression. And don't get intimidated by titles, yeah. Even I don't know what I'm going to do in Facebook, right? I mean, they've given me this role. I don't know what it is. Somebody said managing director, somebody said CEO, somebody said head. These are titles. They don't define who you are. Today, if I get hit by a bus, I'm a nobody. I'm not even with Adobe. and I'm not even with Facebook. I joined Facebook next week. So it's true. Right? the, these are just the dikhava, right? Someone has to show it. So just my opinion. So don't get intimidated by titles. Speak up. Challenge the status quo everywhere, right? I think your professors would learn as well uh, from the perspectives that you bring to the table, because it can help mutual learning on both sides. This is not a 2 plus 2, 4 kind of a school. It's where you co-create and you co-learn, right? That brings me to my second learning. Um, and I wrote some notes on the flight just so that I don't sound incoherent. But the second learning for me is around experiences. And this is a little bit of a, integrity without compromise was easy to get. This is a little more, it's not that straightforward. But the way I think about experiences is experiences are goosebumps. Think of that moment when, something happened in your life and an aha moment happened, right? Now, the beauty of today's human world and interaction and digital technology is that can you create those goosebumps in every interaction with your friends, with your family, with your loved ones? I tried with my wife, I failed miserably, right? It's like, yeah, she knows me too well. I mean, we went to kindergarten together, but yeah. That also tells you how committed I am and how boring I am as well, right? But But yeah, I mean, experiences are goosebumps, right? And what I mean by that is, can you use opportunities to create experiences for the people you love and the people you work with, your clients in the near future, that are going to be goosebump moments, right? In the world of communication, and I don't know if this is taught here, but what I've learned is from Aristotle's theory around, ethos, pathos, and logos, and you'll probably talk about it in one of your classes. When they're in equilibrium, an aha moment happens, which is logos is, Indians and politicians are a great way to observe this. Sorry, this is on camera, but I won't go anywhere. But some politicians go on logic. Someone go on their ethical ability for people to relate to them ethically, and some are very empathetic to their audience, and that's what ethos, pathos, and logos is. But when you can combine them into an equilibrium, whether that communication's in the physical world or in the digital world, aha moments happen. And when you're working for brands as you go forward, experience is the new brand, right? Today, why would you choose a certain service provider or a certain telco or a certain bank or a certain whatever? It's because of the experience you get. You would buy a TV, which is just a commodity, from a certain shop or an online offering, just because of that personalized experience, right? When it's personalized, it's meaningful, it's relevant. Those are things that really help go down a long way in business. And when you think about it, your job as marketing and communications leaders is going to change so dramatically. It already has, right? Okay, let's do a show of hands here. How many of you love, like when I say love, your insurance company? You might be working for one of them, don't laugh, seriously, right? How many of you love your telecom provider? Okay, one guy, right? One or two people love their telecom provider. See, the reason is experiences today have become mashups. They're non-linear, right? And the two or three things that I find missing is they're not consistent and they're not continuous. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. When it's about consistency, don't expose me to your organization chart every time I call you, right? Press 1 for this and 2 for that and 4 for landline and fix for support, and right? Don't do that. I need you to know me. I need you to love me. I need you to respect our history together, right? Is that too much to ask, right? So that's just about being consistent. Continuous is a whole different story, right? Today you can advertise on digital mediums, physical mediums, television, print, everywhere, right? And digital has become this new fad, and everyone wants to do it because the CEO said go do something in digital. You'll hear that with your brands that you'll eventually work for. Um, so I was recently in the market, let me tell you a story, to buy a car. And I had a little bit of money saved, so I said I'll buy a nice car, right? So I went, downloaded the app. It was a beautiful configurator. I went and configured it, changed the seat covers, changed the wheel dimensions, a few things there. And then I walk into the dealership, right? Now, what happens at the dealership, what I would have expected is, can I just take the car, I have it on my app, swipe it onto this beautiful screen that they had there, and they could go down to their inventory and tell me how much time it would take for the car to come. But this very pretty looking girl, right, comes with this huge, now it's not just brochures, they're coffee table books, right? And I have these 5 coffee table books on the 5 models, and she says, now, let's customize your car. I said, no, the car I want is here, right? So they gave me a digital experience, but it wasn't continuous across mediums, right? So and when you think about the word experience, experience is the brand. What's your personal brand that you will leave with your teachers, with your educators, with your friends, your family, or your digital brand that you will leave in the digital world? Think of experiences as goosebumps. Try making those goosebumps happen, right? And you will realize that it is the most amazing thing to leave those goosebumps, because that guy will be your customer, your friend, or your partner for life, right? And that's the second learning. The third thing that I'll say is the power of belief, and challenging the status quo. The the biggest lesson for me on this one was around my Adobe journey. So when I joined Adobe, I was like the laughing stock of all my friends and family, because they said Photoshop, Acrobat is free, PDF के पैसे नहीं देते, और Photoshop तो 100 रुपए में मिलता है, right? So no one would pay for it, right? And rightfully so, because if I met Preeti and I said, hey Preeti, why don't you go and, for your friends, family, kids in your family, go and buy Photoshop. It's great around creative learning. All the left brain, right brain funda I would give her, right? At a party over a drink. She'd say, yeah, Umang, where can I buy it? Firstly, there was no place to buy it, right? But galti se if she found it, right? I would charge her 70,000 rupees. She'd throw me out of the door, yeah. She'd say, are you smoking grass, right? I mean, this is clearly Urta Punjab happening here, but... So I think the learning that we did as a company in Adobe was, one was this fact. The second was the fact that technology is changing really fast, right? It used to take us 12 to 18 months to update the software and release you a new version. And the business was actually slowing down. When you looked at the business, it was a highly profitable business, very high profit, right? But very low growth. Single digit growth. In fact, units were falling. We were just charging you more every year for the same software. That's all that we did, right? Trade secret. So we said, let's change the house upside down, right? And India was the first country in the world to do that. And what we did there was we essentially took the 70,000 rupee wala product and made it 499 rupees, right? Now, why 499? People will tell you A/B testing, rocket science. It's just cheaper than 2 cups of coffee in barista. That was the logic, right? So we made it 499 rupees a month. Pay for it when you want it, and we added lots of capabilities, connected it to the cloud, gave you free mobile apps, and we added value. Now, what happened in the first year is we dropped revenue tremendously because we added millions of new paying customers, which was the goal. So we added growth in the business, but we shrunk the price point, and so we actually shrunk revenue. Now, people really thought we were crazy. And in India, when we did this, we didn't even ask anybody's permission. We said we'll ask for forgiveness because our business was so small. It was so insignificant, right? So at times you can, and then the model was adopted globally by the company, and the company took it to another level. Cut a long story short, when your business is growing at a crazy rate and you're able to renew it, even though the revenue fell, imagine the stacking effect of the revenue. So in the first year, I got 1 million subscribers for, let's say, $10 a month. In the next year, I got 4 million. And I renewed 950,000 of the millions. So you see the stacking effect of the revenue? There's a tipping point. So the stock price went off the charts because Wall Street loves growth-oriented companies. Who cares about hell about profit, right? They'll get profitable. So we dropped our profit, but we brought it up again. And stock price went, or the market cap for the company went from 7 billion to about 50 billion. Right, in 18 months. India, I mean, this was a really brave CEO, Shantanu Ryan, who I love, and a really brave board that made this happen. India's role for us in this journey was, I think we started it, we were the proof market, but as with the early start, we became amongst the top 5 markets in the world for that business, right? And that was pretty cool. That was really, really cool. Um, yeah, so that was the other learning. The other learning that I'll share with you is around your role, and I think I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I'll bring it all together here. You know, in all my roles, I've worked with people who are brighter than me, more qualified than me, smarter than me, and have deeper subject matter expertise. And they're older than me, and they have more experience. And it's a fact, right? Because age is a number, I can't hide behind it. You know, they all know who I am, and so how do you work in an environment when everyone is smarter than you, right? What's the value that you bring to the table? If you think your value is the title Chief Creative Officer, or Chief Digital Officer, Chief whatever, just titles don't define anyone or anything, right? Uh, if I can pick on Preeti and Sid, you're not going to respect them for their title unless they're adding value and you're learning from them, right? I saw the applause that you got. I mean, it was like you have a cult following here, clearly. Uh, but it's because when they can add value, right? So I look at my role as a servant. And there's a beautiful concept in leadership called servant leadership. When you think of your role as your job is there, you have a job to serve your team. And what serve your team really means remove obstacles from their way, right? No one's telling you to be subservient to them, right? But just remove obstacles from their way. And I think you can find yourself by losing yourself in the service of others. And I think we don't do enough of that because we get so hung on to titles and positions and other things, right? I recently met an individual called Atul Satija. You should Google him. In probably the last 1 year, I have never been so inspired by one human being. He started a company or a foundation called the Nudge Foundation, and he basically takes kids from 18 to 24 from the dirtiest slums in India, boys and girls, takes them into a Gurukul for 100 days. And I was recently at their graduation ceremony, you know, uh, speaking to those kids. It was amazing. The whole language was in English. These kids from slums spoke in fluent English. They all had a Facebook account. They were on WhatsApp. They had a smartphone. They had a bank account. They had a debit card with their bank account. And they had an average of 2 job offers from an Uber, an Ola, the women from some salons and agencies, right? So what that told me was he has kind of rediscovered himself as a human. And by the way, he's not doing this for charity. He just raised $1 million from Tata Sons and is raising 10 million more. He wants to make this into $1 billion. Charity is not scalable. It's just not, right? But he wants to have impact that's that large. So I think the point for me or the learning for me was two things. One, can you do something that can create huge impact? Can you do something that you it's the journey that defines the outcome. Don't go and chase that, you know, 1 crore salary or that dream house or that, if you can just put the ingredients in, magic happens when you are dedicated. They say the whole universe conspires to make something happen. It's true, right? And when you see the transformation, like I don't think I've seen any human being transform in 100 days. You should go to their Facebook page. Let's see some of the videos. These kids speak fluent English. You know what he's given them? He's given them dignity of life. He's not only brought them out of poverty, but has given them such a high level of dignity. And it's not him. You won't even see him anywhere in the picture. It's all his team. It's all about the people, right? That's another huge learning there. The other couple of things that I'll say in terms of this is, and this is one of my favorite ones, uh, which is around simplicity. You're going to get exposed to so many new concepts, so many new schools of thought, so many new ways of articulating. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Complexity is easy. Simplicity is really, really hard, right? I'll give you my stories. I mean, if you talk to my clients, they'll tell you, Umang can come in and paint a picture and sometimes do such a lousy job that it was so overwhelming with so many concepts and digital stories and storyboards and that, they switch off. And there could be some meetings where we go and my team goes and we just blow their socks off because we kept it so simple, right? It was, we were recently, I have to relate this story to you. So I was recently with a venture capital firm. We were sitting on their board as catalysts from the industry, trying to identify young startups. These are young students like yourself who had ideas, and we wanted to invest in them, right? So we sat through a day listening to 12 ideas. Some students came in with these fancy packaging and big box presentations and beautiful PowerPoint. Like, I mean, I was asked if I had PowerPoint. I was like, hell no, I don't have PowerPoint for today. I don't want to bore you. But so they came with lots of slides, right? Lots of content, lots of stuff. And then walked in these three kids. I swear by you, they were 4 feet 11 inches, right? They looked like they were in 7th standard. These three kids walked out, two from IIT, one from NIT. I so distinctly, NIT Warangal, so distinctly remember them. They walked in, they stood up, they had 2 slides. They said, here's the problem we're trying to solve. Here's how big the problem is. Here's what we've been able to do till date. We are already profitable. Now we just need to scale it. Here are the numbers of the business. Second slide was numbers. In 5 minutes, they had pitched out, right? And they had 25 minutes. And we were like, we were so blown that the 6 catalysts on the board just said, yeah, invest, right? Go give them a term sheet. And sometimes I've learned that all the jargons and all the angrezi, right? We just need to tone it down, right? We just need to keep it simple. So anyway, that was an interesting learning there. A couple of other things. And I'll switch gears here. You know, as you go through life, actually, let me just put this as a disclaimer before I give this thought, because I may hurt religious sentiments. Politics and religion is someplace where I always tend to be very careful. But so I went to school in a Catholic school in Bombay called St. Andrews. And, you know, the education in those days was 1 rupee a month in first standard up to 10 rupees a month in 10th standard. So really cheap education. But I read the Bible. So I studied the Bible. So all of you who are Catholics in the room who've read the Bible, you know, the Bible says you're a sinner, right? So I would believe I'm a sinner, and I'd come home and I'd meet my Hindu mom, and she'd say, no, you're God's greatest creation, right? So I'm like, you know, what the hell am I, right? And then my father got transferred to Surat, where we went to a school called Seventh-day Adventists. Now, this is a form of Christianity which is against Catholics, right? So Catholics believe Sabbath is on Sunday. These guys said, no, God was actually not resting. It was the first day of the week. Sabbath is Saturday, right? So you can imagine my confusion as a child. But anyways, the example that I'm going to pick on is the laws of the universe. And I think this example for me is so powerful. It's the single most powerful thing that I've learned in life. Is, you know, if you do, we'll do a little bit of a pop quiz here, right? So if you think about, how many of you know the gods and goddesses in India? Well, I said, no one put up their hand. Everyone's cringing under the table. Okay. So let's make this simple. So so when you think about life, and when you think about personalities that have really grown, I'll take examples of companies, I'll take examples of people, and I'll put this concept together for you. But I think it's really powerful. It's not my concept. It's a concept that a professor of mine actually taught me. Professor Vijay Govindarajan. He's brilliant. He's one of the top 3 thinkers in this world, in my mind. And when you think about this concept, the concept is all around preservation, destruction, and creation. And life is in this equilibrium if we can balance all these 3. Let me put this together for you. So when you think about the God of preservation, who's the Lord of preservation? Vishnu. There you go. You got that. Who's Vishnu's wife? Lakshmi, yeah. Who said Lakshmi, right? Lakshmi. Parvati is Shiv's wife. So don't mix the gods there. But yeah, so when you think about it, right, if you can spend 70 to 80% of your effort managing the present, preserving what's keeping your business going or your life going, and Lakshmi is rewarding you for it, right? That's what pays the bills, right? So think about your life in that box, right? But at the same time, we worship more gods, right? Now, somebody just created these gods for some reason, right? So, or it's a figment of someone's imagination. But if you believe in it, who's the creator of the universe? Brahma. You guys know your gods. Come on, you were feeling shy earlier. Who's Brahma's wife? Saraswati is the goddess of knowledge, right? So when you think about, while you're preserving the status quo, if 70% of your effort is here and you're paying the bills, 30% of your effort needs to be spent on creating your future. And whether it is at any stage in life, in school, in college, in workplace. You gotta be creating, because if you're not creating, you're dead, right? You just stagnate. You gotta create new futures. And in order to create new futures, you definitely need Shiv and Parvati. Shiv is the god of destruction, Parvati is the goddess of strength, right? Because what got you here is not going to get you there. So you need to selectively destroy things from the past, right? Think of it as, think of companies, think of people. One of the most inspirational people in this world is Nelson Mandela. He fought against the apartheid, was put in jail for God knows how many years. Now, if I was in jail for those many years, I would have hated the white man because I was a black man then, right? But he came out, he killed that about himself to create a new future for South Africa, right? Which is a vibrant economy today. And it's only when he could selectively kill that past or that hatred that he created that future, but he managed the present. He kept that in equilibrium. Think of Apple. Think of Facebook, right? Facebook started as a company connecting people on campus. Look at the future it's created, right? I could go on and on and on. But somebody still needs to pay the bills, right? So there's that much effort needs to go on managing the present, creating the future, and selectively destroying the past. Take any successful leader, any successful company, and I use this in my personal life, and I use this in my professional life as well. It's super applicable. Last 2 points before I go. This is where things can differ, yardsticks can differ around being super successful and not being successful, or priorities as people call them in life, right? And the concept is pretty powerful around how would you measure your life? What is success to you? And I'll tell you, I realized 2 years ago, I'm amongst the most shallow human beings on planet Earth, right? I'm just being honest, I swear. This was in a public classroom. There was a very famous professor who said, "Hey Umang, so what is your biggest priority in life?" And without blinking an eyelid, I said, "My family," right? And he said, clearly, I mean, you don't even have to think. It was clearly my daughter, who's 5, who's the love of my life, and my wife, who mean everything to me. And then started this exercise, which I think changed my life in 5 minutes. I actually broke down crying in the classroom. He asked me, he said, "Okay, you said your family is the single most important priority. How much time do you spend with your wife and child on an average in a week?" Now, of course, working days, travel, I put the averages out. Weekends, I'm pretty good with my wife and child. So I said, "Hey, I spend about 3 hours in a day with them on an average," right? I said, "Okay, that's pretty good. Not too bad for someone in your kind of a profession and amount of travel. 3 hours is pretty good." He said, "Okay, so amongst the 3 hours, how much time do you spend with them not looking at a screen?" Okay, so TV, phone, iPad, even movie hall. I thought a movie is an outing, right? But no, he said, "How much time do you really spend with them not looking at a screen?" So I said, "Okay, I'll have to remove half of it because the TV is always on and we're watching something or the other. Cartoons are on for my daughter." So I said, "Maybe an hour." I felt a little sheepish, hour and a half. Okay, this is not going too well. Then he asked me, amongst that hour and a half when you're not watching TV or in front of a screen, how much time do you spend not discussing logistics? Ki bachcho ko school se kaun pick up karega, who's going to get your mom from the airport, all of that stuff, right? I said, "Oh shit, we talk about that a lot, right?" Pardon my French. And then it started hitting me, right? And this is publicly. Imagine some Preeti doing this with one of you in this class, right? It's a little intimidating because it just shows how shallow you are. And I'm building a point. He then said, "Okay, if you're not in front of, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Logistics, right? If you're not, so I said, "Okay, how much time not discussing logistics? Maybe 40, 45 minutes, right? Maybe half of that time." So because half the time I am discussing logistics, I can't lie. Right? So he said, "Okay, amongst the time that you're with your friends, with your loved ones and your family, and you're not in front of a screen and you're not discussing logistics, how much time do you actually spend with them, not criticizing them or giving them a negative stroke? That's not right, and this is not right." And I was like, holy crap. I do that a lot. I'm a Virgo, so my wife thinks I'm super organized. Like if you come to my room, my wallets and my pens and everything's kind of stacked up in a certain way. If you move it, I have a OCD problem. Uh, so it was, I do that all the time, right? I'm always giving critical feedback. And so the point is, so he said, okay, how much time do you not do that? I said, maybe about 15 minutes. He said, Umang, you just said your most important element in your life is your family, and the actual time that you spend with your loved ones is 15 minutes. I broke down. I mean, I felt so shallow, right? And I think it's important for each one of us to recognize what is that most important element, right? And in business, it's not about, we say my strategy is this. Strategy is not about what you will do. Strategy is about what you will not do. It's choosing what not to do, which is hard, right? So you've got to back your resources to support your strategy. If I think my family is the number one thing, I should have my resources, which is my time, backing that up. But I wasn't. I was shallow, right? And it's a learning. I think I've changed after that incident quite a bit. I think I now put an Excel sheet, by the way, I have on my phone. I'll show it to you offline. But I actually track the number of minutes. It's in minutes, guys. It's not in hours, right? But I don't say my most important strategy is my family. I mean, I've kind of tweaked that a bit in my mind, and I've started getting better at it as well. Yeah, I think that's all that I had. I think the last 2 points is just around the digital era, right? The digital era today offers you opportunities to do things which none of us had in the past. You can start a company, you can start, whether it's a design firm, it's a communications firm, it's a marketing firm, or it's an app. You can do this just on your own. There are no constrictions. So don't let anyone hold you back. Don't let anything hold you back, right? I mean, the beauty and the power of why I'm excited about the Facebook journey coming up for me is just that it's all about building connections and bridges, right? It's all about connecting people. It's about giving the opportunity to connect billions of people. And I would love every Indian to be on it ultimately, right? Because ultimately, if you give people access to digital, to technology, to, you empower their lives. You can empower and uplift a society. You can empower nations. You give them access to healthcare and education and financial services and all of that good stuff. So don't let anyone constrain your ideas, because ideas is all that you have that distinguishes us from being a savage versus being a human being, is that ability to think, is that ability to make decisions, right? And you're privileged. I cannot tell you how privileged you are. And the education that I did, I think half my life was a failure, right? I mean, I'm honestly speaking, because I mugged my way through it. I'm being honest. I just mugged my way through it. You don't need to do that anymore. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, because you have the ability to think and solve those critical problems, right? So my parting wish to you is, through all these failures, Muhammad Ali, this is the year he died, and I've always been inspired by him. He said one thing which is really cool, which is life or success or failure is not, life is like a boxing match. He firstly said that, right? And he said success and failure is not determined by when you lose and fall, but when you refuse to stand up, right? And that's a very powerful term, right? In terms of, so my serious wish and desire and hope for each one of you is, go out there, create that future for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, for your society, for your nation, for MICA, right? And make us all proud. Thank you very much for having me.